Reto, thank you very much for joining us live on an Academy interview with our talk photography. I'm so excited about speaking to you. I feel like I've known you through your photographs for such a long time, and I'm just so pleased that you've been able to join us today. I've got loads of questions through from members already. So even though we're not doing a live talk photography, thank you so much and things. Really, it's brilliant to have you here. Honestly, I'm like a Cheshire cat grinning so much you won't believe it.
Thank you very much, Mark. I'm happy to have you, to be here. Happy to have me. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this evening.
Thanks. I will own up. Go to webinar didn't start the recording, so we're having to redo this a little bit. All right, I hold my hand up. We're going to talk fully anyway. Can I? Reto, tell us about you. Tell us about how photography first began for you. Tell us a bit about your career and talk about, you know, how you got going all those years ago with analog and where you are today with digital and things. Really.
Mm-hmm. I'm in photography maybe about 30 to 40 years. Started with a very simple camera which I got from my parents, and I started with, like most of the photographers, started with landscape and animals, flowers, and stuff like this. And then after many years, maybe 15 years ago, I thought, I want to do something else. Maybe I could try something with models. First with some portraits, and just made my first nude shooting with my girlfriend then. It was a bad idea, didn't work, because she had no experience, I had no experience. So it was not the way I want to do. So then I decided, okay, maybe you should go to a workshop to learn how to communicate with models, how to learn the whole technical stuff in the studio. So I visited then a photo school here in Switzerland from Martin Zumühle, and he gave me my first lessons in nude photography and model photography in general. And I'm happy that I don't have to live from photography. It's not my main job. I'm working for an international camera company in professional printing as a color specialist. So I make color management and color workflows for graphic art companies. And the black and white photography is let's see, my second part of my life. But maybe in some years I will for sure stop with my main job, and then I focus 100% on photography.
Good. I mean, we're going to have a quick look at the images now in a minute, what we're going to talk about tonight and things really, but predominantly your portfolio, the 8 images that you're showing tonight are all black and white. So would that sum you up? Are you really just a black and white photographer? Is that where your passion is?
That's my passion, yeah, definitely. Already in the analog times, I always worked with the Ilford FP4 and HP5 films, and I was always thinking in black and white, and then using filters, red filters and yellow filters to make the different contrast. And I took this with me into the digital photography. I shoot always in black and white, but I shoot raw, and I have a JPEG, and in the camera I see the black and white. I know exactly how I want to have the picture.
Yeah, brilliant. And I know we've covered these questions before, and I know it is a little bit harder. I do apologize, but I need it all. So the darkroom days, is that really all that time we spent in the dark? Do you think that's really what created more of this intensity to the art side of photography that we see you're doing today? Do you think that darkroom experience really molded you and the type of photography you were going to take next as well? Was that because time spent with an image in the darkroom, you're waiting for it, and I know in Photoshop it's a bit too quick to actually kind of do a quick finish, whatever it is. but all that thinking time in darkroom, it used to inspire me what I was going to take photographs of next. I mean, did you have a similar kind of experience as well?
Absolutely, it was similar. I did all my black and white analog photographs. I developed them by myself, the film and the papers. And I'm happy about it because I still have the darkroom thinking when I work with Photoshop.
Yeah.
I don't care about the names of the tools in Photoshop. I know what I want to do. I want to make it bright. I want to make more contrast. And I always think analog when I work in Photoshop or in Lightroom. And I think that's the big advantage somebody has who started with analog. It's not a way of work. It's more image focused than technology focused.
And the kind of with the digital, it almost breeds taking too many photographs as well. It's instead of the cost of film and all the editing and everything else that we used to have to do via contact sheet, is a very slow process in analog. Whereas digital, in this world of instant, it is instant, isn't it? And you know, focusing in on the details and on the emotion is absolutely key. How do you find that when you work with photographers in workshops who've never been through the analog world?
Then my experience was also by myself when I started, but today when I have some photographs in my workshops, I see exactly which one came from analog and who starts with digital, or started already with digital, because analog photographers, especially me, I try to think analog, even if I have a digital camera. I walk through the picture before I press the button. I go around the frame, check is everything there I want to have. Do I have enough space if I want to cut something at the end? And it's not my goal to have as much photos as possible from one shoot. It was in the beginning. I could shoot 2 hours and I had 600 photos. Now I have 10 or 20 photos in 1 hour maybe. And in my workshops, I see many photographers, they come and say, okay, I have a problem. I only have 600 photos now. I need some more. And then I always think, why?
Yes.
Do you think when you see the camera on the photos on the screen, or do you think before you press the button? And I had a lot of discussions about it because some photographers say I need a lot of photos to choose, and some say no, it's not necessary. I don't like to spend hours with choosing my photos. That's how I do it also. I don't like to shoot 6 hours and then 4 hours choosing the photos I want to edit. So I'm pretty fast with choosing my photos, and then I have some time, more time to edit, even if I don't need the time.
Brilliant. Let's have a quick flick through the images, and then we'll start to talk about the images one at a time. As far as the camera capture stages, in the analog, were you mainly 35mm or medium format? And you know, today, what are you shooting with predominantly? Let's go back to the beginning, and we'll start with an image.
In analog, it was mainly 35mm. I also have a 6:7 camera, middle format, and I still have, I forgot this before, my Rollei SL66, 6:6 camera, but I used it 2 years ago for short shooting, and yeah, I found out it's nice, but I'm not flexible enough with such a big format. And
for me, analog was then. It cost me too much money to do everything, so it's kind of move on.
That's the point. Especially if you shoot 6:6, you have 12 pictures. Then it's gone. And it costs a lot of money to buy the films, and nowadays to find the films. And yeah, I always say I'm a I'm an analog photographer using a digital camera. That's my model.
Good. So, okay, how did you choose your 8 images tonight? What made you think pick these specific 8?
These 8 images that were chosen, all of them are my all-time favorites. I have always a lot of memories with the photos, to the photos, about the story around the picture, how they were created, how I worked with the model, and yeah, there's always a story behind the photo. And I choose them by heart, not by my brain.
Tell us a story about this image then.
This image is I did it with Teresa, a Czech model, and she came first time to Switzerland, and I met her before in Prague, and then I invited her to Switzerland, and this photo we made on a lake in Switzerland. And you have to imagine behind me as a photographer, maybe 30 meters behind me, there's a campground, camping space. And the photograph was taken in June, I think it was June, and there were a lot of people around. So that's one point. I always need models who are not afraid of people. And then we started the shoot in the morning, and the first photos we took in the water on the sandbank. And when we thought we are finished, we walked back to the car. And then Teresa saw this wooden stump here, and we said, this would be something we could work with. So my idea was go over there, sit on it, and look nice. And she said, no, I don't sit there. That everybody does it. I stand on it, like a statue. Yeah. That's how it came, and that's how I work. And I'm not prepared. I'm not always. No, I'm never very well prepared for shooting. I know where to go, and I know the model. That's it. Then I'm on location. I see, okay, how it looks, how is the situation, and then it's always a dialogue with the models. What can we do?
And how does the shoot work for you as far as the relationship with the model and the communication? And because we see one thing looking through a camera or looking at them, they see something else in their head, and they're aware of their body and pose and light and so on with it. How's that communication work between you and them? Do you are there times where you just let the model go for it, or are you communicating the whole time with ideas, or how does it work for you?
It always depends how well I know the model and how well the model knows me. With a model which, like Teresa, for example, here, we know each other very well. We know exactly, she knows what I want to have, and I know what she can do and what she wants to do. And then, yeah, as I said, we see a situation and then think about it very shortly, and then we start. But I don't like models who go to the location or to the studio or wherever, and then they start with the program. Like push the button and start like this. I don't like this. If somebody does it, I stop it very, very fast and give more instructions. But when I see that the model brings her ideas to the location or to the set, then I let her go. As long as it's really in my mind, and if it's unique, I let her go, and I always make correction, or say maybe give more energy in your body. It's always a communication, and at the end, as I would say, most of my photographs are maybe 60% me and 40% model, sometimes 50-50, sometimes more model and then photographer. It's always a cooperation.
And do you usually work with the same model time and time again because of that relationship you build up with them and the trust and everything else with it?
Yeah. I love to work with models more often. So with Teresa, you saw before, I worked with her since 5 years, maybe at least once per year. And this photograph here with Tess, I always also shoot her, maybe I think in 21 or 20, the first time in Prague. And when I see that everything is perfect, communication and thinking about photography and all this stuff, I love to shoot more often with the same model. I don't like to start always with a new model. It's like in a relation. The better you know the model, the better pictures you can do. You can create.
When we talked before the recording didn't record and blah blah blah, I asked you about your see, I'll admit mistakes. Yeah. We talked about your influences. Who were your major influences in the world of fine art, nude, and things? Was there one photographer?
My main influence was already before I started with nude photography was Helmut Newton. He made the pictures I want to do with. They're not just his photos live. They have emotions. They have atmosphere, and he always tried to do something different than others do, and that's also what I try to do. Now, for example, it's there are many more photographers like Vincent Peters, Peter Lindbergh, for example. This great name. Yeah, but it was Helmut Newton. Why I started.
Let's talk a little bit about this image then. So is this on a workshop or is this a private shoot or what is it?
There was a workshop in Czech Republic I organized, and I did this photo because I think it was on the second day of the workshop, and I did this before the second day started. I was walking around on the location with the model, and we talked about where we can do. We had different 4 models on this workshop, and I walked with her here, and then I saw this. What's the name of this location in English?
Woodpile.
Woodpile, yeah. I saw this.
We'll call it that.
And I told him, that's a good combination with this hard wood and with your body. And then again it started. She said, yes, I could later and maybe try to look comfortable. And we did this picture maybe for 5 minutes maximum. So we saw it, without flash, without any additional light. Just
there are no boundaries really. When you find a kind of an amazing fine art model, they'll do anything, isn't it? Really, you know, within safety reasons, but they almost lose themselves in the concept themselves. And you might have just, like you said, you arrived at the woodpile, you kind of do it. And I'm sure there's times where you've got to go, no, it's just not safe. Let's not do that kind of thing with it, you know. And they get so invested into the image, you know. We are, because we're the people who capture it, but they are performers, and they really want to give the best performance they can give to you, isn't it? They are magical.
That's absolutely true. I always say security first. That's very important for me. But I know exactly, when I worked several times with a model, I know exactly what they want to do, how they will do, how safe they are with what they do. So yeah, and the good thing is, if you work several times with a model, the point comes when you don't have to ask her if you want to do it. You feel, if you see, when we saw this location, we knew we make something with this, even if it's not comfortable. Maybe somebody else would say, no, it's too hard, I cannot later. But yeah.
Very good. And as far as your lighting for fine art nude, do you have anything specific you're looking for, or because your love of the landscape and the nude within the landscape, which we haven't talked about yet, but is there a particular lighting that you're looking for at all?
Honestly, no. I always shoot. I don't like to use flash.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use a reflector if I have somebody who can hold it. And mostly it's just the situation like it is. And in my studio times, I had about 7 years my own studio. And then I found out it started to be boring for me because it was always the same situation with different models. And in the studio, you build the light around the model. And as soon as you're on location or outdoor, you have to place the model in the light, because the light is given and you have to find out where can you place the model. It has the model to be a good picture. And I also don't care about daytime. I know most photographers say morning or evening light is the best. I love to shoot at noon because then it's immediately completely different than everything else.
Very good. Okay, talk about this image.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite locations. It's also in the Swiss Alps, called Urner Boden, and the model is on a how to say, it's a place where they made small stones out of the rocks. And I asked her to climb up there. It's not really high, it's maybe 2 meters over the ground. And she climbed up there, and the sky was so dramatic with the weather, with the clouds, because the weather was not really sunny. It was cold, it was windy, and the clouds came over the mountains, and it looked dramatically. And I just told Denisa, the model here, climb up the small hill and try to bring over the situation, the dramatical situation of the moment. And as you see, she did it perfectly. That's what I like. It's I think this photo is for me full of emotions. It has power. It has atmosphere. That's what I want to do with my photographs.
And is this model a dancer or an actress as well? Because she has fantastic animation, doesn't she, in her pose? I always love to shoot dancers, and if they'll shoot nude as well, it's almost like the perfect blend for me.
It's not a dancer. She calls herself art model. It's Denisa Strakova. Maybe you know her. She's really famous. And it's funny how I met her. I made another workshop in Prague. We had also about 6 models, and I knew one of the models is a playmate of the month, and I didn't know which one. And then I asked my girlfriend, maybe have you an idea? And she said, yeah, I think it's her. It's Denisa. So I went to her and asked her, are you the Playgirl? She said, no, I'm an art model. I have nothing to do with Playboy.
Yeah.
And she's a perfectionist. She always thinks about the situation and what she can do, what she haven't done before. She's one of the models who doesn't repeat herself. After she always has I think I made 5 or 6 shootings so far with her, and it's always something new.
Good.
and she's full of
So
power, and she has emotions, and yeah.
I'm reading some of the questions off as we've kind of had through from members as well at the same time, but there's one about where was it, about starting off. Well, what advice would you give to somebody just starting out in fine art nude photography?
Someone starts. My advice is always first go to a workshop, because then you know how to communicate with the model, how you know how it is to have a nude model in front of the camera, because it's different if you make portraits or nude. And the other point is also, if you want to start with nude photography, it's always with the chicken and the egg, we say in German. What's it first? If you have no photos, it's really hard to find a model. So if you go to a workshop, you can you can build your network. You met some models, and after the workshop, you can ask them to do a private shoot with them and to start building your own portfolio. So always start with workshops, if possible, with completely different, more than one workshop, which are completely different. When I started, for example, I made a studio workshop, then I went to an outdoor workshop, then I went to a workshop with a photographer who only shoots indoor on location, so completely different. And then I tried to find my own style between this. And never start with your girlfriend, doesn't work.
No. Book a model. Book a model who's done it before and tell them that you've never done it before. And basically a good art model will look after you.
When I did my first workshop, for example, it was less than 1 year after I started with nude photography. I made my first workshop because I thought I have to do something. And I had completely no experience with workshops, with organizing workshops. And I asked a model I met in another workshop before, and she also was Playmate of the Year 2010. And I asked her, and I was surprised. She said, yes, I'm sure, come. And then I found out it's really important that you have a very experienced model when you're organizing workshops.
Yeah.
And that was half of the rent.
Very good. How do you keep fresh with ideas? Does the location finding does that help you, or what keeps you fresh with ideas?
It's mostly it's a location. For example, this picture, it's the garden house of our friend in Prague. The garden house is at the same time a guest house, and it was the first shooting with this model, with Katerina. And I made already a lot of photos here in this garden house, always inside, outside, but never in the window. And then we looked at this and they said, okay, open the window and stand behind it. Then you see what happens. And she stood there and was a little bit lost. Then I told her, we found out, okay, you need something. So I gave her this poncho. Do something with this. I never say, take it, carry it like you carry a poncho, do something, play with this. And it took 1 or 2 minutes, and she had the poncho over her head and looked like this. And yeah, it's not just me finding the location, it's the model and the location, and together we found it. Even if I made already dozens of shoots in the same place, it's always different.
Do you like to include props at times? Do they help you, and do they help a model, or do they get in the way?
The props,
a prop, you know, like the poncho that you've got now. Do you use similar things to this as well? Do you in other shoots things, or do you usually stay away from prop?
Usually I stay away. If the model has something, then it's fine. I never have something except this.
Yeah.
Normally I don't have. I know photographers, they have some lingerie and stuff like this. I don't like it because I always think I want to take a shoot of a model and not of a model with my stuff. So the picture should be 100% the model. And if she brings her own props, it's fine. You can use it if it looks good for me. But normally I don't have I don't have tons of stuff with me which I can give the models. You always try to do something with the location, with the situation. Like the flowers here, which are already gone.
Gone, yeah.
Maybe somebody else would taken them away because they're not nice. I thought they are perfect.
Yeah. I mean, beauty's in the eye of the beholder all the time, isn't it? I mean, there's a question here. What impact do you hope your work has on viewers? Do you have any expectations of how somebody looks at it, or are you just kind of going, look, this is my photograph I take, this is what I like to take, make of it what you want? Is that the kind of thing that you are?
That's the kind of how I work. Yeah.
I think there's some photographers who are a little bit too deep. And I'm never sure if they're making up the idea after than when they're actually photographing. You know, if it looks good, it feels good, you shoot it.
Yeah.
You know,
that's exactly how I do it. So I also never use a mood board.
Yeah.
Because a mood board for me sets boundaries. Yeah.
How do you navigate the fine line as far as how people view fine art, nude photography, and things? Really, in Switzerland, they're kind of liberal. I think the UK is now as well, and a lot of Europe is. Perhaps not in certain parts of the world that it's kind of taken in on the same kind of more acceptancy. There seems to be people trying to judge images and kind of look at them and kind of have the, you know, they're trying to impress their views on somebody else. How do you navigate this fine line? Do you worry about it at all?
I worried about, for me, most important is the model feels comfortable. If you are going somewhere, for example, I have a series. Actually, I have nothing here in this 8 pictures. I make it's called Nude in the City, and I started in Zurich, which is the biggest city in Switzerland. And before I started, I asked the police, "Do I need a permission for it?" And they said, "Yes, of course, you need a permission if you have a lot of equipment, and if you use public space for more than 20 minutes with a lot of equipment, then you use permission." I asked again about nude, say no, it's no problem. If somebody calls us, we have to come. And in the worst case, we ask you to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, and as long as you don't make a big story. If you come and say, "Hey, I'm here, come on, I'm a star, I make photos," nobody cares. And for me, more important, it's that the model feels comfortable. Not every model can shoot outdoor, and there are some people around. As long as she's comfortable, it's fine. And I'm always out on public space or the locations. We are always very fast.
Yeah,
that's also important. And the less equipment you have, the faster you are.
Okay, let's talk about this image.
Yes. This image is also very interesting. It's the location is a relief tunnel of a reservoir. So it's not a studio. We went here and I asked the model to go in there and she should show me how she feels. Interesting thing is it was really dark here, and you had to find the place between the border between shadow and light where I could place her. And then I asked her, "Do you feel comfortable?" She said, "Yes, my feet are wet because there were always some water coming. It came from the lake, which was behind the dam, and it was cold, and it was always always some wind." And she said, "Yeah, we do it, but not too long." And she went by herself. She started to move and to do this pose. And the interesting stuff is also that this model is Irina from Ukraine, and we did this maybe a few weeks after the war started. And she could not go back to Kiev, where she comes from. And I think that's something which is also see here on this picture with its emotion. It's not full of energy. It's for me a very silent picture. And that's one of my really all-time favorite pictures at the moment. And she's also a photographer beside this.
It's beautiful.
She makes photos mostly analog and Polaroid as a photographer. And that's also interesting. If you have a photographer as a model.
Yeah. As far as your post-production, your process is concerned with an image like this, what kind of, if you go back to the kind of the good old days of printing paper and, grade 3.5 and that kind of thing with it, do you have a specific skin tone that you're trying to print for? I know that pretty much every image is slightly different anyway, but in your head, do you have a gray that is your gray?
Not really, because the models, they always don't have the same skin tones. There are models with a lighter skin, and she, for example, has a darker skin, and I always try to keep it as it is, to show the model really in a skin tone that is more or less how she is. I don't work very much on the skin tones. I want to show the skin how it is, to look as natural as it is, because the model is really not. I didn't work a lot on it.
Okay. And your post-production technique in Lightroom, are you using HSL? Are you using saturation and luminance to get rid of the color, or are you just desaturating? What's your technique for black and white?
Mostly it's sometimes it's HSL, and I also work with the contrast and with the black point and light point, as said, with graduation.
And do you prefer a blocked black, or do you like detail in the black?
If possible, I like details.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all. It's always sometimes it's really difficult because it depends of the light. Especially if you shoot outdoor, the light is as it is, and sometimes there's too much light because they have very, very white tones on the skin, and maybe it's that if you make the exposure perfect for the lights, then the dark is too dark. And so I started to do underexposure, and then maybe to open it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's always possible to open it if you have nothing. If the white is burned out, then it's gone.
Perfect. Our next image, deal with horses.
Horses. I did this picture last year in Camargue, in southern France, and the model is a from Germany. It's Tanya, and she's a Western rider. She makes contests, and she wanted to do something with horses. And then I thought, okay, we can try it, because in Comarch there are a lot of horses. We were there for, I think, 3 days. And we just one day we went in the car and said, okay, we go for a ride and see what we found. And then these horses we found by accident, let's say. And as you also see, the weather was again cloudy and windy. It was perfect for me. And in this picture, I made maybe a little bit more work on Lightroom, on Photoshop, because I had to use to delete the fence. There was one fence between horse and model.
Okay.
That's the only one of the last photos which I really work on it with retouching it. And this.
Very good. So your photographic technique as such, really, as of today, what's your favorite lens? Are you shooting full frame? Do you have a working aperture that is your kind of go-to? What's your kind of setup as a kind of arrive at a location for your, it doesn't have to be so much for this image, but what's your favorite lens and aperture? What are you looking for?
So my favorite lens is a 50mm 1.2. Most of the time I shoot with this lens.
Okay.
Then I have also 70-200 2.8.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And your 1.2, what working aperture do you like to shoot at? Is it 1.2 or is it deeper than that?
It's mostly it's 1.2.
Wow.
Because I like to work with the blur effect.
Yeah. And what about focus point and things, really? Are you manually focusing, or are you using the focus, the auto-focusing camera? Are you using a specific spot, or what's your kind of technique with it and things, really?
Here I use 100% the technique which is available. I use the eye finder.
Okay.
So I always focus automatically on the eye. I say that's one of the advantages of digital photography today. You don't have to think about too much about the focus. You can focus, concentrate on the image as you want to have it.
Very good.
But I remember before I moved to mirrorless camera, I always was in trouble with focusing on the right point. So even if you work with a 1.2, if the sharpness is on the nose and the eyes are not sharp, then it's gone. You cannot use it.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Very good. This image.
Yeah. That's the newest one of the images I have. It's about 3 weeks old or 4 weeks old. It's with Emma from Netherlands, and the story behind it. We wanted to do some outdoor, and this time the weather was cold and rainy, and she told me, I don't want to do it, but we can go. I have a friend, he has a farm, you can shoot there. Then I told her, yeah, but the farm is mostly also outside, it's also cold. And she said, no, he has a studio. And that's because I know the guy. He's a colleague, a friend of mine. I said, as much as I know, he doesn't have a studio. He has a farm. That's it, because he's a farmer. And she said, no, he has a studio. And then I called him, and she said, no, I don't have a studio. I have a garage. And then I forgot to ask him about how the garage looks, because for me it was fine. And I thought, okay, a garage has normally a window with that where daylight comes in. It will work. So I went to the location where she was there already before. We shoot with him. When I arrived, it was really a small garage, and there was no window, no daylight. and he had his flash equipment inside, and I had my camera, which was not compatible with the flash he had. So I had to find out how can we handle this. I took my flash on the camera to steer his studio flash, which worked at the end, not bad, but only one of the studio flash was working, not both, because there was not the sensors didn't see each other.
Yeah.
So this picture was made only with one flash in a completely dark garage, maybe. And again, I told her, we saw the chair, and I said, can you do something really a strong pose? And she said, yes, sure, we tried. Yeah, that's the story behind.
It looks like 100 years old.
Yeah, it looks like that.
It's amazing that you said it's only a few weeks old. It could have been done 100 years ago for Vogue, Paris Vogue, or whatever.
That's really,
love it. Things
really a great experience, because she knew exactly I don't like studio, I don't like flash. Then what did we had? We had a kind of a studio, and we only had flash. I had to do something which I could use as much as possible in my style.
Very good. Our last image. Let's talk about selected models though first, can we? How do you go about selecting your model to shoot with if it's a new model?
If it's a new model, like here, that was the first shooting with Miss Tess. She was completely new to me. So it was also in Prague, and a friend of mine who's the owner of this building where we shoot, he's also a photographer and an artist. And he said, I have maybe somebody for you as a model. She would like to shoot with photographs from abroad, or not from Czech, from other countries. Maybe you can do something with her. I said, yes, why not? Because I don't have a preferred kind of model. For me, it's not important if she has tattoos or if she is blonde or brown, or let's say, as long as somebody looks interesting for me as a person, I want to shoot. And here she came to the location, and we started with our first shooting, first indoor, and then at the end, it was one of the last pictures. Maybe she was already a little bit tired. I was outside and shoot through the window into inside. And that's also a picture, it was not planned. She was at the window, and I asked her, stay there and look outside, and I tried to do something good.
Yeah, very good. So when you're kind of faced with this, how long would you shoot a specific scenario? How long? So before you give yourselves a break and things, really, and do you revisit the shot then? So in other words, if you're photographing at the window or a door like you are now, and you kind of shoot for what, 20 minutes, or do you keep shooting? How long do you shoot for?
I would say max 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Even most of the time less, because as soon as I see I have something, I stop and make a break. Because for me, it's always important that models, and also me, we have breaks. Yeah. To relax, to clean the brain, to prepare for the next set. And I always like to show, or not like, I want to show the pictures to the model, because for me it's important that the model, especially it's a new one, that she knows what I'm doing. What my kind of pictures. I always show them, and the more breaks you have, the more time you have to show the photos. And honestly, maybe here after 5 or 10 minutes it was done, because what do you want to do behind the window for half an hour?
Yeah.
And I don't want to have dozens of similar pictures for that.
I think as well, I've seen photographers where they don't realize how tired a model does get.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking about every part of their body, and at some stage it's either very relaxed or very tense.
Yeah.
And, you know, sucking in of the body, shoulders back, arms in a position, fingers in a very position, neck will be structured. I mean, it's a very tiring thing. And the break is not only your mental break for what you need, but the models can get pretty tired very quickly, isn't it? Because they do get into the shoot and they want to give you 1,000,000%.
That's exactly like it is. So I once had a photographer told me, we don't need breaks because the model has nothing to do, then they're just looking good. Then I asked him, try to do what she does for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I promise you, you will be dead after 10 minutes. And that's it. I mean, it's body work, it's hard work. And if you cannot relax, and also mentally and physically, that's very important. And I say, as long as the model feels comfortable, it's for me a good chance, a guarantee to get good pictures.
Very good.
I also sometimes, when I book a model for maybe 6 hours, it happens sometimes, and I have my pictures after 4 hours or after 3 hours, I say, okay, we're done. We don't have to shoot more because we did a good job and we're finished, and I don't see a reason to continue for hours just to fill the time. And I prefer to go for it.
Do you work with an assistant at all? Or are you shooting alone, or how does it work for you if you're not in a workshop environment?
If I'm not in workshop environment, then my assistant is my wife.
Yeah.
Which is also very good for me, because it's not I think it's very important that your wife accepts what you're doing. And she's always with me on the shoots. It's also important for the model to know that there's somebody else, there's another woman.
Yeah.
And it's important for the atmosphere. And she also, if there's something we have to do with the models, she can do it, because I say I don't touch the model. That's for me absolutely important. I don't touch her. If there's something that I want to show her, I ask my wife to show it, to put the hand on the right place, or to fix the hair or something like this. Yeah. And good. She does also the if I need a reflector, she does it. And then she looks for the rings, for water, from whatever.
Obviously, you know, I contacted you via Purple Port and things. Really, you've got an amazing portfolio on here. Anybody who's looking for more of Rita's work, then basically head over to the portfolio here, or over into Rito's website. Before we finish, though, what's the nudeART.ch? What's all this about?
nudeART.ch is a community of Swiss photographers. Mostly of them are really on a high level, and we are maximum 35 photographers. And what we want to do is we want to bring nude art or nude photography to a broader acceptance.
Yep.
We want to show that the nude was always in your art already 100 years ago, and nude is not porn. And with nude art, with our community, we want to build the bridge between the society, let's say, and nude art photographers or nude art artists, which can also be painters and models. And we guarantee for everybody who's a member that he's a serious photographer and he knows how to work with models, how to communicate with models. And yeah, we meet for 4 times a year. We have a meeting. We have one weekend where we go where we shoot all together. And this year, for example, we have a big exhibition in Zurich, where everybody of us shows his work, and it's open for public. And yeah,
very good. Thank you.
I'm proud to be a member of the board of this club.
Reto, can I just say thank you so much. I want to talk about another 100 of your images, but it would get very boring for some, and probably for you as well. But thank you so much for sharing some of your time and showing some of your images. And I'll be begging you to come back again and choose another 8 images very soon, I'm sure, kind of thing with it. But thank you very much. There was one last question before we go. Somebody was asking about how you present your images for an exhibition, and is there any tips that you can share in selecting the portfolio image to kind of really make the best of the best?
That's a difficult question, because I don't care about, for example, if I post a photo on Purpleport, I don't care so much how many people like it or not, or how many comments I have. For me, it's important that it's a picture I like.
Yeah.
And then I show it. For exhibition, of course, I print it out and put it on a frame, print it on good paper, on a good printer, of course, and in black and white. And then it's also not so important how big it is, because I think if the presentation, if the photo is too big, people walk by. If it's smaller, they have to stop to look at it. And if they stop, they look at it, and then they think about the photo, and then maybe they start to discuss with it. And I would say, if you want to present photos, don't care about opinion of others, or don't think what they could like. Important is show what you want to show. Show your pictures, not the pictures the others want to see. Show your pictures.
Brilliant. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your images. And I will be begging you to come back again, you know already. But and I'm sorry about the cock up at the beginning where Go to Meeting didn't record. It's not a good way to start off our relationship, is it? You know. Anyway, thank you, Reto.
Thank you, Mark.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.